Hello, welcome to Hollywood Crime Scene. This is Rachel Fisher.
This is Desi, Jedeikin. We're back with Marvin Gaye Part 2. Once again, my source for this episode is Divided Soul, The Life of Marvin Gaye by David Ritz. And this week I'm adding After the Dance, My Life with Marvin Gaye by Jan Gaye and David Ritz. He got in on that one too.
He did.
He's like the expert on Marvin Gaye. Jan is Marvin's second wife. So where we left off, after a serious spell of depression, not only was the world changing in major ways, Marvin was still reeling from the turmoil in his life, including the death of Tammy Terrell, that he would say made him feel like he had died. He was very affected by this death. At Motown, Berry Gordy was all in on Diana Ross, who had started her solo career and had just discovered, in quotes, the Jackson 5, which was bullshit, according to Marvin. That did not happen. But Berry sold that story as an attempt to even further put Diana in this stratosphere. So he's really trying to make Diana a crossover star. They go to Hollywood in an attempt to make her into a major movie star. And he kind of permanently moves there and starts setting up Motown Records recording studios in LA. Some say Berry had left Detroit to escape a beef he was having with the mafia, but according to Marvin, that wasn't true. Like many before him, Berry wanted to prove he could be a big shot outside of his hometown. And this will begin a migration of Motown artists to LA, something Marvin initially resists. He's kind of like, I'm the only real guy here. Like, why are you guys all going to sell out, like to LA? Fuck LA. So he's reflecting on popular music at the time. At this time, Motown's biggest act is the Jackson 5. Obviously, the Jackson 5 is straight up fun pop music. Like, it is not very political at all. Maybe there's some romance in there. Motown begins to pressure him to get back at it. And he's like, have you read the papers? Have you seen the news? He's like the person who won't let anyone like tweet something like bullshitty.
Yeah.
He's like, how are you tweeting about this nonsense when look at the world?
Yeah.
He's that guy. He's also getting really into alternative culture, such as Carlos Castaneda.
Oh, boy.
We know that guy.
Well, I dated that guy.
That's definitely a phase. And he's taking a lot from Carlos's writing. He wanted to travel his own path, a path that had heart, and he begins developing his own strategy to get back in the game. When he goes back in the studio, he begins working on music that means something. And as I mentioned last episode, that is What's Going On, which is a concept album, most of its songs segueing one into the other, which is called a song cycle, meaning listen to it in order all at once.
Yes.
So the narrative established by these songs is told from the point of view of a Vietnam veteran returning to his home country to witness hatred, suffering, and injustice. These songs explore themes of drug abuse, poverty, the Vietnam War, and also ecological issues. He's one of the first people who really pushes that in the song Mercy, Mercy Me. In an interview with Rolling Stone, he discusses what had shaped his view on more socially conscious themes in music. He says, in 1969 or 70, I began to reevaluate my whole concept of what I wanted my music to say. And he was very affected by letters his brother was sending to him from Vietnam. He realized that he had to put his own fantasies behind him if he wanted to write songs that reached people's souls. So that's where he's at now.
I love this album. I love Inner City Blues.
Oh, my God.
I think that's my favorite Marvin Gaye song.
I really like that song, but I like a lot of them, but that one's great. On June 1st, 1970, he goes into Motown's Hitsville, USA, and begins to record What's Going On. So I thought it was interesting. This song actually has another co-writer. And the thing that inspired this song was an incident that happened while the Four Tops were on tour. A Four Tops member named Reynaldo Benson witnessed an act of police brutality committed on anti-war protesters who were protesting in Berkeley. This protest was quite famous. It's called Bloody Thursday. And he told an author later on that I saw this and started wondering what's going on. Like, it literally
Yeah.
started from that. A Motown songwriter named Al Cleveland wrote a song based on his experience, but the Four Tops were like, no, we don't want to do a song like this. It's too political. But it was his exact mood. He's like, yes,
Yeah.
I want it. He reworks the lyrics to fit his style. And this album had a lot of experimentation in it as well. The alto sax riff that opens the song up was not originally intended. It happened on a demo. The guy was just fucking around. And Gaye is like, no, that's the perfect way to start the song. And the guy's like, no, I was just goofing. And he's like, well, you goof off exquisitely. Thank you. The multi-layered vocal on that track, you hear Marvin singing in two places, right?
Yeah.
That was also an accident. He was obviously recording a lot of lead vocal tracks. He wanted to hear them both, and the sound mixer accidentally put them two lead vocal tracks together, but he liked it and kept it for the album.
I mean, it sounds gorgeous.
It sounds cool, yeah. And these laid back sessions, especially for this single, were credited to a lot of marijuana and scotch. They were high and drunk, and you can kind of feel it. It's definitely like a mellow vibe in a way, even though it's talking about serious things. So, he approaches Berry Gordy when they finally have this What's Going On track done, and Barry didn't like it.
What?
He's like, this is the worst thing I've ever heard in my life. And Marvin was like, he's like, I'm going to go on strike if you don't put this out.
Yeah.
And Berry Gordy eventually changes his mind. This is Marvin's first self-produced, self-written album. And obviously it transforms him into what critics will now see as a complex and serious artist. When the album is released, many critics are literally like, I underestimated you, sir. Like, I was not familiar with your game. Like, it was
Right.
that kind of reaction. Many noted the spirituality of the record and referred to Marvin as a modern day soul preacher. And his father could only dream of reaching the millions of people Marvin did with his sermon, this record. This relaxed, mellow, swingy style will become his new sort of trademark sound. And he said he finally learned how to sing on a mic by listening to jazz saxophonist Lester Young. He's like, I just needed to relax. Like, he wasn't pushing his vocals anymore. He was just like letting it happen. And as I said earlier, in media interviews, he quoted that castanata over and over again about traveling down a path of the heart. The album was obviously critically lauded, but a huge commercial success as well. It was his most successful album to that date. It had 3 top 10 hits, What's Going On, Mercy, Mercy Me, and Inner City Blues, which is amazing because these were not your typical top 10 hits at the time.
Not at all.
Not only musically, but they were longer. They weren't like short songs necessarily. It influenced younger Motown artists like Michael Jackson and especially Stevie Wonder to one day push for more creative control. Michael obviously at some point starts songwriting and producing more. And Stevie moves into that Marvin lane as well in the 70s, that more politically conscious music. And also taking his time. Marvin was like, you can't put out a masterpiece every 6 months. That was Berry Gordy's thing. Every 6 months. It's like, no, this album took 2 years. So as with his past success, it fed his ego, but at the same time, ignited his insecurities. Adding to those insecurities was the fact that What's Going On wasn't nominated for a single Grammy Award.
Wow.
Which is insane to me. Something Marvin would be angry about the rest of his life, especially when it came to the winner in the category he thought he was a shoo-in for, and that artist was Lou Rawls. Now, he has a serious beef with Lou Rawls that is really funny to me.
Wow.
So I'll get into it more later a little bit, but it made me laugh because I was like, yeah, it's kind of relatable when you have a petty beef.
Totally.
Because it's not Lou Rawls' fault.
No. That is really funny.
So he began to wonder if it was a mistake staying in Detroit. Like maybe he should move to LA where you can, schmooze, socialize with these Grammy voters. But first he would be going home on May 1st, 1972. It was declared Marvin Gaye Jr. Day in D.C. He goes back to D.C. He performs at his high school. And he finally returns to the stage at a benefit concert at the Kennedy Center. That was a huge hit. And he was like finally sort of like, oh, I made my dad proud, because he
Mm.
still cares about that piece of shit. Now, after the success that Isaac Hayes and Curtis Mayfield have with their movie scores, Marvin gets in on that as well with the score for Trouble Man. The one song on the album that does have a vocal was the title track, and that becomes a major hit for him as well. He finally does decide to move to LA, and he and Anna live in Benedict Canyon, and Marvin will eventually move his whole family from DC to a massive Tudor-style home in West Adams in South Central LA. Marvin took some time getting his bearings in LA and was almost immediately spiraling because Jermaine Jackson married Berry Gordy's daughter, and Marvin felt like he had been replaced. He was worried that Barry wanted to make Jermaine Jackson the new Marvin, which is honestly hilarious that he
Yeah.
was worried about. Sorry. No offense to Jermaine, but come on, like there's
That's funny.
no fear there. He did have aspirations to maybe move into films like Diana had done. Back in the 60s, Barry had even approached him with the idea of him starring in the Sam Cooke story.
Oh.
Marvin was like, dude, that is morbid. He was like, no, I am not doing that.
Yeah.
And that obviously never happened. So he began to obsess on what his next album would be. But soon that career obsession was replaced with a sexual obsession that would alter his life forever. And that obsession was a 16-year-old girl about to turn 17 in a few days. Not that that's any better. Who walked into the studio while Marvin was beginning to record Let's Get It On.
No.
Yes, this teen was Janice Hunter. She was the daughter of close friends of Ed Townsend, who was collaborating with Marvin on Let's Get It On. Marvin said she appeared, it was like a gift from God. He said, I never encountered a more beautiful creature in my life, and I had to have her. Now, Marvin was known for giving 80%. Which I find to be very relatable. But that night, after Janice arrived, he gave 100%, according to Marvin's attorney. He said, listen to Let's Get It On, and you'll hear what I'm talking about.
Jesus.
Now, when Janice and her mother left, Marvin turned to the boys and said, that's the finest woman I've ever seen. Now, obviously, this age difference is crazy, and I'm not going to defend it. Marvin is 33. He's married to a 50-year-old woman at this time, and she's like, let's just say 17, because she's literally about to turn 17. And he's like 17 years younger than his wife and 17 years older than Janice. Like he's right in between, which I thought was really crazy.
That is crazy.
So who is Janice Hunter? So Janice was actually born into jazz royalty. Her childhood was very rough. Her father was the singer-songwriter Slim Gaillard, who was famous for his hit Flatfoot Floogie with the Floy Floy. And her mom is Barbara. They had a short-lived affair. He was married at the time, and when she got pregnant, he said he had more than enough children than he could name or remember. So he was not having it. So at the age of just 14 months, her mom sends Janice to an unlicensed foster home. This is like a very, I've never heard of something like this, and I'm almost certain it couldn't happen today, I hope. But it's basically she just dropped her baby with this woman who had like a foster home that wasn't official.
Uh-oh.
And obviously it was not good. Now, people kind of always wonder why she did this. Because she wasn't like from a poor family. She probably could have gotten help from her family. But if this is the late 50s, she's an unwed mother of a biracial child. Her mom is white. And obviously that would have been extremely difficult in the late 50s. She was also a drug addict. So she had stuff going on. Whatever reason, though, this is crazy to me. Janice would be with this woman from 14 months to 14 years old. Now, apparently, though, the mom was like visiting her and they'd have weekends because it was unofficial.
Yeah.
But Janice, the woman she lived with was named Ruth, and Ruth subjected her to numerous private exams.
No.
Yes. So obviously that's sexual abuse. She was also physically abused, sent to Catholic school where she was sexually abused by a nun. So a lot is happening to poor Janice. At the age of 14, she tells her mom she's had enough, and she's like, I want to come back and live with you. According to Janice in 1964, when she was 8, she developed a crush on Marvin Gaye while watching him perform How Sweet It Is on American Bandstand.
Get out of here.
Yes. Now, by the time she was back with her mother, Barbara, she had married a man named Earl Hunter. According to Janice, he was another hyper hip character with swag and style, with a funky background. He accepted me into the home and did his best to love and protect me. And days before her 17th birthday in 1973, Ed Townsend, who was friends with Barbara and Earl, was writing with Marvin Gaye, and he brought her into the studio as a birthday present because she was such a huge fan of Marvin Gaye.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it was kind of like a joke, like, "Oh my god, she's got the crush on
Oh,
Marvin.
wow.
Let's bring her in for her birthday." But Janice had other plans. She showed up. She got decked out coming here. I mean, she's a kid. So she's a still young girl, so I'm not saying she was asking for it or anything. She shows up in a leather coat with a fox collar. She put her hair in braids. She's wearing platform shoes, form-fitting clothes. She put makeup on and perfume that she described as sensual. When she had arrived, Ed is like, "Hey, this is my girl Janice. It's her birthday in a few days." Like, da 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 da. Now she like tensed up when he did that, and later on, before she left, she went to Marvin and pulled him inside, and she said she just wanted him to know that Ed wasn't her father.
Uh,
And Marvin was like, "That's very interesting. Thank you for letting me know. No, I hope I see you again." She yelled and screamed with excitement in her car on the ride home. And her mom was like, "Calm down. Like, he's married." Like,
Yeah.
first of all. So let's get into more of the recording of Let's Get It On because we'll have more with Janice and Marvin, believe me. So at this point, career-wise, Marvin hadn't had a smash follow-up to What's Going On yet, obviously. He had the Trouble Man soundtrack, and he also had an album of duets with Diana Ross that just fell completely flat. He was over his duet period in his life. The chemistry wasn't there. And to be honest, and this is what many people said, he just outsang Diana. She just could
Mm.
not keep up with him vocally. And it was sort of distracting. It was so obvious. In 1973, he goes back in the studio with another autobiographical work. This is sort of an inner monologue on spiritual and philosophical ideas related to sex. Obviously, Let's Get It On, though, was a very sexual work. Critics called it carnal and an unabashed paean to fucking. And while that may be true,
They said fucking
yes,
in their
in the
critiques?
in the review, it was probably like the Village Voice or something.
Yeah.
Not the New York Times. While they, this sex thing was a spiritual struggle for Marvin. He was trying to find joy in sex, getting past the idea that it was just for procreation that he was raised with in his father's church. And he really wanted to become non-judgmental about sex. He writes about his struggles in the liner notes. And in the liner notes, he says, "Sex can be very exciting if you're lucky." And he says, "I hope my music that I present here makes you lucky." So let's get it.
This is an album to get horny to.
I think a lot of people got lucky when they put "Let's Get It on their record player.
Yeah.
For sure. It's very horny. Now, I mean, I don't have to tell you this song. Everyone knows this song. It is extremely horny. At the end of the song, he's like telling a woman he wants to feel sanctified. So he's still adding this religious aspect. He really wanted to merge the profane with the profound. He wrote song lyrics almost stream of conscious for this song, similar to Yeats's automatic writing, like truly, according to him, letting the Lord take him where he needed to go. On Let's Get It On, there is a second version called Keep Getting It On. I think it's the end of side 1. And you'll see some of his riffing on the lyrics in that one as well. Now, much like What's Going On, side 1 of Let's Get It On is a suite meant to be listened to in sequence. Side 2 has a different theme, one of more sexual frustration and separation, including the classic Distant Lover, which becomes a live show staple. And Let's Get It On really brought, this is according to music critics, brought funk more into the popular music realm. I mean, it obviously was already existing, but it really became a crossover.
Yeah.
And he kind of reintroduced a modern take on doo-wop in some of the songs as well. Obviously, that was his roots. And he was also one of the first people to really include porny elements. Like, there are women moaning
Right.
in these
He's a
songs.
pioneer.
And this is obviously popularized by Donna Summer, Love to Love You Baby,
Right.
later, which I couldn't believe when I heard that as a kid.
Same.
I was like, what the hell? I was like, I was like, am I allowed to listen to this? What is going on? Because it's also a very long song.
It's a long song.
And it's a lot of moaning.
She
and
goes
like,
through a journey.
I was like, I can't believe this is still happening. Like, I was like, how much moaning can this woman do? It was crazy.
And it's fantastic.
Oh, it's a classic. So, much like Marvin was inspired with what's going on by what was happening in the world, this album is very inspired by Janice and his lust for her. So after meeting Marvin, Janice desperately is waiting for his call, but he went to the desert to do mushrooms, so he didn't call for a few days. But finally, Ed called her mom, telling her that Marvin wanted to see her, and Ed would be picking her up to take Janice to the studio. She's like, I gotta impress these guys, and she gets some weed from one of her friends at school. And her mom reminds her before she goes, like, don't forget he's married. I was like, this mom sucks. Like, that's your only warning?
Right. That's the problem.
So Janice was like, oh, please, like, you've never been with a married man.
Oh my God.
I was like, okay, so she doesn't have a role model, really. At the studio, Marvin asked Janice to roll a J. She does. And when she lights it up, everyone was gagged because it stunk so bad. They were like, ugh, like, what the hell? She got some cheap ass, like, weed.
Yeah.
She's humiliated. And Marvin tried to console her, saying it was good despite the smell, lying to make her feel better. That night, he said he wanted to see her again and kissed her on the forehead. 2 days later, Marvin called again, saying he was going to pick her up for a dinner date. At the restaurant, they ran into Mama Cass, and then he ordered apricot spritzes for both of them, drives her home in his Lincoln, stops in front of her apartment, and they kiss. She invites him inside. Her mom is in the bedroom sleeping, and she invites Marvin Gaye to come into her living room. They fool around, and Janice is like, I could tell what he wanted, and I'd done it before. So she gives him head in the living room while her mom is sleeping.
Dude.
I was like, this is crazy. And he kind of hangs around, and he's like, is it okay if I call you Jan? And she's like, yes, like, you can call me Jan. And she's like on cloud nine. But she did think it was odd he wanted to be pleasured knowing her mom was in the next room when they could have gone to his apartment. At this point, he has kind of like a bachelor pad.
Yeah.
Because he's obviously still married and they have their big house. The next morning, her mom asked how it went and if she thought he called. And in Janice's book, she's like, oh, he's going to call.
Oh my.
She's like, I know he's going to call. I was like, Jesus Christ. It wasn't long before she was at his apartment getting high and they did finally have sex. Janice said she finally understood what it was to make love. She cried during sex and after. She was not a virgin. She had had sex before. He told Jan she was his girl and she was in heaven. Now, they are constantly together at this point, and Jan is even with him when he almost gets into some legal trouble. They are driving around the Sunset Strip, and Marvin asked her to roll a J. They're getting high and excited to get back to his place to make sweet love when the sirens start blaring. Now, the cops were almost immediately like, hey, you're Marvin Gaye.
Who's that girl?
Yeah. He asked to make a phone call, and they're like, sure. 10 minutes later, Motown exec Suzanne DePass arrives, and Jan said she looked at her in a way that screamed, look at these two fucking idiots stoned driving around Hollywood. Within minutes, the cops left the scene with no ticket or arrest, and Jan said Marvin seemed embarrassed that Jan had seen how he kind of relied on Motown to take care of him. The album ends with a song called Just to Keep You Satisfied, which includes the lyrics, farewell, my darling, and this is his goodbye to Anna, his wife, basically.
Damn, that's cold.
He had moved on from his marriage completely in every way, but legally. Now, according to Marvin, they hadn't been a couple for years. Jan obviously made things worse. But in Marvin's eyes, that was his true love and a dream come true. He didn't care anymore what Motown or Anna thought. He just wanted to be at home living his little life with Jan. But he does keep the relationship quiet for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
Jan becomes pregnant and loses the baby, and that kind of solidifies their bond. Let's Get It On, the single is released, and it's his biggest hit to date, reaching #1 on every chart that it's on. And that success, he is able to negotiate a new deal with Motown that includes a demand that he receives a $1 million check signed by Berry Gordy himself. This is
Nice.
a non-negotiable demand on his part because Motown's like, well, he's going to Europe. Can I just sign it? And he's like, no,
No.
it must be signed by Berry Gordy. And they go out of their way to make this happen. And this is definitely his way of getting approval from Barry. But it was especially important to him because he had a huge fear that Barry would screw him over once he knew about his marriage with Anna ending. So despite the feeling of being in love, the reality that Marvin was still married with a young son reared its ugly head quite often. Once Marvin had to go pick up his son and trade cars with Anna at her sister's house in Bel Air, he took Jan with him, and he was kind of like, okay, leave the Bentley, go sit in the Lincoln, I'll go get Marvin Jr. or Marvin the Third, and you wait in the Lincoln. So Jan is in the Lincoln. She's waiting for him to come out with his son, and soon the door opens, and it's Marvin, his son, and Anna coming out of the house. And she's very imposing. First of all, she's 50.
Yeah,
and Jan
she's a grown woman.
Jan is 17. She's wearing a crushed velvet pantsuit.
Nice.
And diamonds. Sorry, I would be turning the Lincoln car on and like hauling us out of there.
She means business.
She meant business. And Marvin is like, don't start trouble, Anna. Don't start trouble. She goes to the car, tells Jan to roll down the window and says, I just want to see what someone like you looks like. And then she like looks at Jan and like doesn't say a word. And then she turns to Marvin and she's like, now that I've seen it, don't ever bring it here again. And Jan was like, oh, she called me it. She was hurt.
She read her down.
Yeah, and Marvin then drove them to Roscoe's for lunch and didn't say a word about what had just happened.
Humiliating.
So Marvin gets them a mountaintop home in Topanga Canyon, and they officially move in together. She's like 17, living in Topanga with Marvin Gaye.
She's like bragging to everyone at school. She's like, guess where I just moved?
Seriously, I have like a cool 70s house in fucking Topanga. Topanga is like between Palisades and Malibu. No, she's like telling her friends.
Oh, yeah.
I have like a 70s.
Well, she's not saying 70s. It is the 70s.
Well, I don't know. That's true. But it is like a very 70s house.
She's like, I have a sunken in living room.
I have a sunken living room and like beam ceilings, like those wood beam ceilings. And Topanga is like a really cool area.
Yeah, it's very funky. It's like next to Malibu.
Yeah, it's right between Palisades and Malibu. It's not really waterfront. It's more...
It's like woodsy.
It's woodsy.
It's way cooler than Malibu.
I agree. Like, I've often been like, I could live here. I used to go to that restaurant, the Inn of the Seventh Ray.
Oh, I've always wanted to go there. Topanga's in the cut. Like, Topanga's hella cutty, but it's beautiful.
Yes. So, this becomes like a shelter from the world where they can kind of live their life in privacy because this is a very isolated area in LA as far as LA goes.
Yeah.
You're not running into people really in Topanga.
Yeah.
Audiences, they're happy with the music they're getting, but they want to give Marvin even more money than just from buying his records. They're like, when are you going to tour? And Marvin is very reluctant. He does not like shaking his booty, as I mentioned last episode. Another reason he doesn't want to work so much, he's like, well, Anna's just going to take it all in divorce. Why should I work hard to give her more money? He's also worried that Barry will start like juggling the books to kind of screw him over as well, because he can do that, right?
Yeah.
Like as far as his numbers go. So he's like, yeah, leaving Anna is a financial mistake, but there's no way around it. Other than that, things couldn't have been better for Marvin. He was really feeling good. He would always talk about how happy he was that Spiro Agnew got the boot. That was like thrilling for him.
Yeah.
Obviously, he has a hot record out, a new woman, teen girl. Only one thing could stop him, and that was himself. We'll take a break here and then come back. So Marvin finally agrees to perform at the Oakland Coliseum in January of 1974. This is a favor for a friend of his. And this will become a prototype for his future shows. His basic MO is drive the women crazy. And he finally incorporates a few dance moves into his act. They're very small, though. He does some head cocks, he raises his arm to the sky, and he does some buttocks pumping.
Buttocks pumping?
That was the way it was written in the book. So I left it exactly as.
Buttocks pumping?
What was he like doing, like humping?
That's vulgar.
Yeah, we love a low effort king. He found a few dance moves to do, and I like it.
I like it too.
I think he sold it. It was also at the show that he dropped a new song that he wrote for a beautiful girl. He then said while he's like announcing this song, he's like, she asked me to write it for her. And that was kind of embarrassing for him to call her out like that. According to her, though, in her book, she said, she confronted him afterwards saying, why did you tell him I told you to write the song? And he said he didn't want to upset anyone. So I don't know. That's her version. Either way, she still got embarrassed. Now, he's still very mysterious to the public about who this Jan is. According to Marvin, it wasn't just the age thing he was concerned about. It was also the fact that even though Janice is biracial, she looked white, according to him. He didn't want to offend his Black female fan base, who he said made me. And he thought that they would be upset by this. So even though Janice had worked her magic on his soul, he kept it under wraps. In March of 1974, she becomes pregnant again. And this infuriates Anna. It's just humiliation after humiliation for her. Like, he is married to Anna, and now he has this 17-year-old girl pregnant.
Oh my God.
And he's just acting like nothing is weird about this. Like, it's crazy. So he said the best way to deal with complications was to ignore them. That's his philosophy. And he finally decides that he's going to do what he said he never would do and go on tour. He's like, I'm out of here. I can't handle Anna's nagging at me about getting this girl knocked up. This pregnant girl needs my time. I need to get the hell out of here. But touring is not easy for him. He really is an introvert in many ways. So he began self-medicating. His drug use triples while he's on tour. He's doing cocaine, pot. He's genuinely distressed and wants to go home. He's definitely in that cycle of needing to do cocaine for the energy and then not being able to sleep and like just back and forth, right?
Yeah.
A classic combo. He really resents having to turn himself into a sex god on stage every night, making the women horny. It's like, like just to get them to buy 3 more records when drugs aren't enough to sort of relieve his stress and pain. He begins to seek relief from sex workers, sometimes just wanting to talk. He liked having that kind of relationship because it was a business arrangement.
Right.
Like, he can't fuck his fans because then it becomes a thing, right?
Yeah.
So he does that. While he was on tour, he had pregnant Jan go live with his family for a while in DC.
Oh my God.
This is crazy. And they give her the tea about his childhood. And she's like, what the fuck? Why did you send me here?
So the dad is there too?
It's like his siblings still live at home, the mom, the dad. And the dad's kind of a recluse. He's like in his room all the time.
So the mom and the siblings are like...
I wouldn't say the mom, but the siblings. The mom is not telling her the tea, right? Because she's still married to this man.
Yeah.
So she learns more about his abusive child, including the fact that Marvin, according to his siblings, and this is nothing Marvin has admitted to, was molested by an uncle. And when Marvin told his dad didn't believe him. But his siblings knew what happened and were too scared to stand up for Marvin. And this is what they tell Jan. Now, this definitely adds some context to why Marvin may have been fearful of being thought of as gay, like looking back. Yeah. That's a very common thing, I think, for boys who get molested by men. Obviously, he was already confused about his sexuality and sex in general. So it just added a little context to that fear. This deepens her empathy for Marvin, and she begins to lessen her own abuse. Because remember, she also was molested as a child from multiple people. And she would always just be like, well, whatever happened to me wasn't as bad as what Marvin went through, which is
That's really sad.
Really sad. So now she is like, fuck Marvin's father. Like,
Yeah.
she already didn't really like him, but now she really hated him. He had been pissing her off by always referring to her baby as a grandson, never a granddaughter. They didn't know the sex, but he was a sexist pig. And she finally couldn't take it anymore and got the hell out of the family home, awaiting the birth of their child, who was finally born in September of 1974, Nona Gaye. She will be nicknamed Pie, which is very cute. So Marvin is smitten. He wants to cancel his tour to be with his new little family, but reluctantly, he finishes it out. After the tour ended, they end up leaving Topanga because of horrible wildfires.
Yeah.
Those were happening even back then, especially in Topanga. And they get a really huge luxury apartment in Brentwood. In early 1975, his world is rocked when Jan gets pregnant again.
Is he
This
still
is
married?
5 months later. Yes. This is a humiliation too much for Anna, though. She finally files for divorce. So Marvin goes off the deep end when that happens. He buys an estate for Jan and Nona and the future baby in Hidden Hills. He spirals. He buys his own recording studio. He just kind of goes on a spending spree, kind of a manic phase. Anna, he starts to have issues in his relationship with Jan as well. And as I mentioned, his dad is a sexist pig. Marvin is kind of a male chauvinist. One fight they have is over Jan's desire to sing. He doesn't want that. And he's like, no, you need to stay home. You're my girlfriend and baby mama or whatever. Marvin is also not happy with her weight gain and stretch marks.
Oh, boy.
So Jan is already suffering from postpartum depression, and obviously that makes her even more depressed. He barely touches her after she gives birth. He's like, I'm afraid I've fallen out of love with you. But days later, he does a complete 180 saying how beautiful she is and how in love he was. But of course, those earlier words stung and still hurt her.
Yeah.
Amongst all this chaos and romantic turmoil, he starts recording 1976's I Want You. This is a romantic and erotic tribute to Janice. Now, despite Marvin's fear that Berry Gordy would turn on him when Anna filed for divorce, he was actually still one of Motown's biggest profit makers, especially now that the Jackson 5 had kind of cooled off. And Diana Ross's big movie, directed by Berry, Mahogany, had completely tanked.
Now it's a cult classic.
I know. Funny how that happens. But yeah, it's funny because I always remembered hearing, oh, that was box office poison or whatever.
But everyone loves
and I was like, I
Mahogany
love that
now.
movie. I liked it even when I first saw it because it's right up my alley.
Same.
I think I had bought a book called Bad Movies We Love, when I started watching movies at some point, and I was like, I watched all of them, and this was probably one of them.
Yeah.
So I watched a lot of kind of camp classic. But Barry, at the time, it was a huge bomb, and he's desperate for another big hit album. So he pairs Marvin up with Leon Ware, who had already been working on music that he thought would be a perfect fit for Marvin. The album has often been noted by critics for Leon's cinematic down-tempo sound. It had a lot of erotic themes, and Marvin uses the synthesizer on this one.
Nice.
So this is a departure from the Motown doo-wop influence sound, and this one has more of a light disco soul vibe to it. This gets mixed response from critics at the time of its release, but obviously, in retrospect, a lot of people now recognize this as one of his most controversial works and influential to a lot of musical styles, such as disco, R&B, neo-soul, and Quiet Storm. Do you know what Quiet Storm music is?
I know, you're listening to the Quiet Storm on the radio, and I always listen to the Quiet Storm.
Yeah, I was like, I knew what it was too, but it was interesting. I kind of oh, okay, that's Quiet Storm. Yeah, it was famous.
I don't think I knew it was a specific genre. I just, whatever the Quiet Storm program was on the radio,
yeah,
I loved that.
Well, it's kind of, I think it has a lot of crossover, songs that might be, a certain type of genre is also a Quiet Storm genre as well. So What You Won't Do for Love.
That's considered Quiet Storm?
It's very mellow, kind of almost easy listening, but not boring easy listening.
It's vibey.
Yes. So there's a whole Wikipedia article on it if you're interested with a list of songs. Because I was like, I knew, so I was like worried. I was like, maybe Rachel's going to ask me. I better find at least a few examples. So a lot of cocaine is consumed during this recording. Marvin also, I mentioned, had purchased a studio in LA, and he wanted to turn it into a Playboy style den. So it is tricked out. Like, he has huge oil paintings of himself in the studio. I couldn't find, I didn't look for pictures, but I have this idea of exactly what it looks like. Like, very 70s, like, den, maybe carpet on the walls, like shag carpet.
Yeah.
Kind of like in The Shining, you know.
Halloran's.
Yeah.
Well, those paintings.
Those kind of, like, that kind of
very,
look.
Very
rust orange, you know.
Sensual.
Yes. Anyways, very he wanted it to be very sexy. This album is very sexual. And this becomes a party place.
Nice.
Like, people are recording, everyone's smoking pot. He calls these serious parties, and they get debaucherous. Like, shit's going down at these parties. This album has a lot of unbridled sexuality to it. It's about desire, but also about his desire for domestic tranquility. Like, he wants to be that guy.
Yeah.
Right? He proposes to Jan on the record. Like,
does she know that?
Yeah, because he says it. He's like, "Did you see? I said I want to marry you." And she's like, "You're still married." Like, it's like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So one of the things on his mind, though, with Janice, is that he starts fantasizing about her being with other men.
Oh,
and
he's got a cuckold fantasy.
Yes. So he not only asked her to fool around with other men, but she says no. She's like, no. And he gets mad when she says no. He really wants her to fuck other men and watch, and he wants to suffer the consequences. Like, he wants to feel that pain. Other people speculate, like, once again, tapping into that Madonna horror complex. He can't be happy with a woman until he pushes her off the pedestal.
Yeah.
And then he can have that over her, I guess. Perhaps the greatest way Janice inspired Marvin, though, was making him do something he had never done before with a woman. Now, on
Getting
the album,
pegged.
No, I'm sure he hasn't done that either, but that's not what we're talking about. This is a song called Soon I'll Be Leaving You. And in this song, he sings about finally finding a woman he's willing to give head to.
What?
Yes.
Wait a minute.
This song is graphic.
Wait a minute. This man wrote Let's Get It On, but he wasn't eating pussy?
Nope.
When he wrote that?
Nope.
Well, wow.
But
he's doing
Jan
it.
brings it out in him, and he writes a whole fucking song. And I was like, wait, is he like, he literally says it. He's like, it's the first time. I was like, wait a second, how did I not know this?
Sir, you are, what, 35? How old is he?
Yeah, he's like about 34, 35.
Well, at least he's being honest.
He's being honest, and I don't think it's uncommon back then for men to think it wasn't masculine. It was definitely more common.
Well, look, we're having like second wave feminism in the 70s, so I think women are like, listen, pal.
Yeah, for sure.
You're going to get down there and eat my pussy.
Yeah. I mean, admittedly, he was very fucked up sexually.
Yeah.
But I'm glad he had an awakening. It's just funny to see a whole song about a man being like, you know what, baby, I never wanted to do this before. And he literally in the song, he's like, I'm going to give you head. And I was like, how did this make it past the censors? Anyway, Jan does get a second proposal. They're in Atlantic City for a show that he's doing, and they're running late for the show. They're in a limo, and Marvin's like, speed, like, and he's like, I can't go any faster. And he convinces the guy to really fucking drive recklessly. And Jan is frightened, and the guy loses control and crashes head on into a telephone pole. He dies instantly, the driver. And Jan, like, goes through the front, like, she ends up in the front seat. So she's thrown into the front of the car. It's a really bad accident. Obviously, the show is canceled. She's rushed to the hospital. And the last thing she hears while she's going in and out of unconsciousness is that Marvin telling her she had to stay alive so he could marry her. And he's like, "Will you?" And she's like, it's a little weird timing, she remembers thinking, but she's like, "Sure." And then she goes into unconsciousness. So like
Wow.
not like a second sort of vague proposal from Marvin. So I Want You sells 1 million copies. Critics don't love it, but as I said, it eventually is reevaluated and considered another one of his
And then
masterpieces.
Madonna covers I Want You in the 90s.
Yes. So now throughout the 70s, Marvin is dropping these seminal works, and he doesn't get any Grammys for any of these albums, which is crazy. Now, part of the problem is Stevie Wonder, unfortunately, is also releasing masterpiece after masterpiece, and he is winning boatloads of Grammys. But Stevie winning did not make him mad because he loves Stevie Wonder, and Stevie obviously deserves it. No one can deny that.
Yeah.
But when Lou Rawls wins again over Marvin, he is pissed. And he says in the book that he wanted to punch him out on national TV when he went up on stage to accept the award. And he said, God intervened and kept me in my seat. Otherwise, Lou would be punched out.
Imagine
I
if
was
we
like,
saw that
that's the
unfold.
slap of the 70s. So he records a concert at the London Palladium. They're recording a live album, but it's not long enough to fill out. It's like a double album, so they need music for side 4. And that's how one of my favorite songs by him, Gotta Give It Up, comes to be. This is for this album. So Berry Gordy had been begging Marvin to jump onto the disco bandwagon, and Marvin was not feeling it. After months of holding off from recording anything resembling disco, he sets about writing a song parodying a disco setting.
And that's how this song came to be?
Yes. So obviously, this song is a banger. It becomes another huge hit for Marvin. He's singing in his falsetto.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Everyone loves this song.
It's amazing. So it wasn't big enough to pay off Anna's divorce settlement demands, however. She wanted $1 million cash. That was her demand, and Marvin was pissed and ready to fight, but his lawyer was like, no, let's just get this over with. He's like, pay her in your music. So they come up with a plan to get the divorce finalized, which finally happens in March of 1977, over 2 years after she files. He agrees to give her his $300,000 advance on his next album and then the first $300,000 in profits from it. And that album will be Here, My Dear. Now, at first he thought he'd just do like a quickie piece of shit record to like get it over with, but he decides to turn the album into a therapy session, getting out all of his feelings about his marriage to Anna out of his system once and for all. He even dedicates the album to her. Now, this is not a great Anna doesn't come out looking good on this album.
Yeah.
In the songs, he accuses Anna of keeping him away from his son. Of course, he is the victim in all of this situation. It's very self-pitying. This is his side of the story. After Anna listens to it for the first time, she leaves without saying a word. And once it's released, she sues Marvin for invasion of privacy, saying he did it to deliberately hurt her. And Marvin's response is, all is fair in love and war. Now, this is a commercial and critical failure upon its release. People call it bizarre and uncommercial, but some people, like Robert Christgau of The Village Voice, they like it. And he writes of the album, this is a fascinating, playable album. Its confessional ranges from naked poetry, and he puts a lyric that he liked in it. Somebody tell me, please, why do I have to pay attorney fees? Which made me laugh out loud.
Honestly, a little on the nose.
It just made me laugh out loud. And he's like, this is like a modernist trope that ranks up with Elvis Costello. I was like,
oh my
it's
God.
kind of, it's funny, but it's like not a great lyric.
It's kind of silly.
So after he dies and like in the years following his death, this does also have a turnaround and it gets hailed by music critics as one of his best albums. Anna even admits years later, it's taken me a while, but I've come to appreciate this album and all of Marvin's music. And the album has appeared on all 3 editions of Rolling Stone's The 500 Greatest Albums of All Time. But despite the end of his marriage and the freedom to now marry the love of his life, he was thrown into even deeper despair, and his marriage to Jan would take him to the brink of madness. And that's where we'll end. We do have a part 3 coming next week. We'll get into his marriage to Jan, his murder, and all that. It's like a lot.
Wow.
The dark ending to it all. Poor Marvin. What a mess.
Ugh.
I mean, he is truly a mess, right? This guy, no one needed therapy more than Marvin.
Ugh.
I don't think he ever went to it.
I know. This is a man who desperately needed help and someone to talk to.
It's like give him some tools.
He needs some tools.
He needs some tools to like help fix himself.
Ugh.
I mean, it's just so sad.
Yeah, his story is very sad. I really enjoy hearing about these albums, like the reaction to them when they came out. I had no idea. I didn't know Hear My Dear was like a commercial critical failure at the time. Besides,
yeah, I know. I'm glad you liked that because I was kind of like, should I include this album
I always
stuff?
enjoy that.
I was like, well, when else are we going to talk about this except for now? I like hearing about some details of the recording, how things happen, and then the reaction. Because we only know these albums way after the fact.
Right.
So, of course, we know them as classics, and it's hard to believe they weren't seen that way.
Yeah.
Back then. So, yeah, I'm glad you like it. Because I was like interested
I'm
too.
always interested in like the songwriting process.
Me too.
Or what things are about, or like some weird shit that went down in the studio.
I agree.
And
they have more details in the book. If you like that kind of stuff, you can definitely get more of that in this book. But yeah, we'll have more next week. We'll be relying more heavily on Janice's memoir. She seems really cool, I have to say.
Is she still around?
No, she died. But obviously Nona, their daughter, is like an actress, a pretty well-known actress.
Yeah.
She works a ton. I did see she was like in Criminal Intent too. I was like, ooh. And I just think Janice seems really cool.
Yeah.
And she's like, I don't know. I like her.
Yeah.
She's really beautiful too.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, we'll be back next week for part 3, the conclusion of our series.
Cool.
All right. Thanks,
Bye.
Desi. Bye.